All right. Good morning, good afternoon. I'm not really sure what time it is. I'm not even sure what day it is, but thank you guys for listening, and hopefully you're online listening. My name is Justin Sider. I'm the CIO of Belay Technologies. Today I'm going to talk about automated infrastructure as a service testing with VMware NSX. All right, so based on everything I say, don't necessarily go out and buy it. I don't work for VMware, and I'm not selling anything today. So, all right, so I'm going to basically run through a little scenario that you might encounter. It's pretty basic, but I think you'll catch the point of what I'm trying to explain to you and what you should be looking at as you administer and work with your development team to deploy your infrastructure and maintain your infrastructure. So here's the problem we're trying to solve. How do we test the effect of a firewall rule, whether it be a virtual firewall or whether it be a real firewall, on your production system with zero downtime? Now, mind you, when I say downtime, I kind of mean like an unexpected outage. Okay, I'm not talking about an outage to upgrade a system or an outage to change part of your system. So think about more unexpected outage. All right, so test-driven information as a service, what is it? It's basically the love child of test-driven development and test-driven infrastructure, right? So everybody's moving to infrastructure as a code, which means that we as administrators, we need to be doing the same thing that the developers are doing, right? And many of us are probably already doing this. You're testing the deployment of your infrastructure, and you're validating that, when you deploy something, it can talk, the ports are open, and all of these things. So test-driven infrastructure as a service is bringing those two back together. All right, so here's a basic scenario. Like I say, you'll probably laugh at how simple this is going to be. We have a pretty standard setup for the picture. I know the DMZ would actually be on the other firewall. You just wouldn't be allowed to talk. But your left-hand side, we have a user. User hits a web page and they want to enter their time into their time system, right? That time system web app is sitting in the DMZ. It talks through a port through the firewall over to your private network where your database and your actual time management system is staying in place. So, these guys, they want to go from MySQL to, let's say, Oracle backend. Off the bat, what do you think that most people are probably going to do these days? Right, whether it be a physical server that you have or whether it be virtual servers. I kind of like to get paid on time, so I'm going to make sure that my company is set up right and we can do this testing, right? Because as administrators, you're probably going to test that you can deploy the Oracle server. You're going to test that you can deploy a new web server that's going to talk to that Oracle server, and you're probably going to test that you can edit the firewall, and whether that be a manual configuration or whether that be through NSX. But the question is, are you testing it from the user aspect, right? So, in an automated way. So, most likely this is what it's going to look like. You're probably going to go out to your DMZ, which is probably going to be a ESX server. You may stand up a brand new web server, right, and open an additional port, right? So, how many people's security team would be okay with you just opening another port for testing a new infrastructure? Probably not too many, right? I mean, even if it's a known port or even if it's a port that's kind of out of the normal range, they're probably not going to like that too much. So you have some options, right? You can deploy that additional infrastructure. You can just go for the upgrade one night, right? I'm sure it'll work. No one's going to approve this, so why even worry about the upgrade? And then the last one is just use NSX. Use virtualization to redeploy the entire infrastructure. Right? So it could be on a small scale or a large scale. So we'll get into what that's going to look like. Here it is. Pretty simple setup. You're going to basically isolate your entire environment, right? You recreate your DMZ, you recreate your backend network. You get a choice. You could virtualize ESX inside of here too if you really wanted to get fancy with it. But the goal is to really have this completely automated, right? This isn't a manual configuration. So whether it's some kind of script that's going through PowerCLI, Power NSX, you can now hit the APIs with the newer releases of vSphere. We want to basically set this up. And then you also want to set out a client computer, right? So set up a Windows box, load up Firefox or Chrome or whatever you guys use for your timekeeping system, and roll through the user clicking on the boxes. So there's some tools at the end that I'll show you that can actually mimic the mouse clicks for a user. You can take screenshots along the way to make sure that your users are getting the correct experience, because that's what we're after, right? You don't have a job because you need to maintain ESX servers. You need to maintain ESX servers so that your end users can continue to have the same level of service that they have now. So it's kind of shifting your mindset of I'm just here to maintain machines, patch them, keep them online, to I'm maintaining services that people are consuming. All right, the other beautiful part of using NSX is that you can test multiple applications at the same time, completely siloed. So, you can test your timesheet app, you can test your SAP app, or all your different applications completely isolated from each other. And just to keep it in a rolling fashion, because it's automated, you don't really care which app you're testing it at any specific time. The other part is this is repeatable, right? So this isn't a one-time thing. So if you want to go from MySQL to SQL Server to Oracle, you just have to plug in the different components. We're all orchestrating the same things now. Now you're just adding like a layer of test on it, right? How do you get a result? How do you know that the users can access that timesheet? All right, here's my timesheet. I get paid on time. Yes. All right, so here's the process. I'm not sure if that all fed on there. Basically, it's an iterative process, right? So you're going to continue to do these things over and over, right? And the biggest thing I'm going to say out of all these steps, and all this stuff's going to be posted online, is that make sure you have a good failure scenario, right? Because if everything always passes all the time, you're going to have a false sense of security that you're awesome, right? Because you're going to come across something at some point where production's going to be down, and someone's going to come to you and say, oh my God, I thought you always test this. And you're going to go, we do, look, here's all my results. But the reality is that if you've never seen a failure, you really have to verify that everything is good. And as automated as it's going to be, make sure that every once in a while you're watching the test, you're manually inspecting that all the components are acting like they should. All right, so another reason why you might want to do this is cost savings. So if you automate the entire process of your deployment, it could be, we talked about a timesheet here. This could be an upgrade, and whether it be a CentOS 7.1 to 7.2, Microsoft patching, all of these things can be replicated inside of your virtualized environment. Apply NSX to isolate it, to recreate the firewall rules or the subnets. It's really, really great tool set for you. And because you can automate not only the deployment of your infrastructure, you can automate the deployment of your applications, and now you're testing the actual usage of those two things together, you can be sure that you're always testing those things, and you can get things out faster because you know what the expected behavior is, you know what the outcome's going to be. And also kind of gives you confidence, right? You know that when you go to have your outage on a weekend or a late night item, you already know what the outcome's going to be, you know what to expect. Or during your testing, you've experienced the problem, so you know when you see item number 1 hit your list, you can say, well, when this happens, we did this to fix it during our testing. So, little note at the bottom, if it's worth building, if it's worth testing, right? So if you're not going to test it, then I don't even know that you should waste your time on it, right? All right, so why NSX? If anyone doesn't know what NSX is, they're, like Pat Kelsinger said, you're behind. So do your research, go out, check it out. It's an awesome tool, and honestly, with NSX-T coming out, I expect V to kind of start to dwindle away. T looks like a much better platform for scalability. So keep an eye on that. I think it's going to GA in the next month or two. All right, quick little recap. This is a methodology, right? So I know you guys are probably already testing your deployment, and I know that your software developers are testing their software. What this is a methodology to test the two together to make sure that your end users are getting the user experience that they're paying for, or that you're there to provide them. The tests are, again, not designed to test the specific component. We're not testing whether or not the firewall is open. We're testing whether or not the user can get to a web page that is in front of a firewall that's being fed by a back-end database. So here's a whole lot of tools that can get you started. My company offers a framework to do this. Selenium and AutoIt, they are button-clicking tools. You know what NSX is, GitHub, Jenkins, and Bamboo. You can use these to start automating the deployment of items and start executing the test. There's going to be a lot of configuration that you have to do to get the report back that says, yes, this was a pass, right? So make sure you're logging, make sure you know where those logs are going to go. what the logs need to look like, how you can parse those. And that is, for the most part, it. I want to, thank the guys in the back, thank VMTN to helping us out, and thank you guys for listening. And make sure you're doing all your proper testing.